Thank you. Pepe and Jose, we've been through tons of scrapes together, and your remarks, just breathtaking. I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart for your friendship. You guys are tremendous leaders, and it was an honor to have you both nominate me. Thank you. Members, I'm deeply moved and humbled by your faith, trust, and confidence. I will work every single day to bring honor to this institution and to the people I represent. Before I get started, I'd like to give a couple special recognitions to two people. The first is to God. He is everything in my life. Everything that gives me wisdom, that gives me hope, that gives me courage, that gives me love comes from my Lord and Savior. We serve a great God, and He is good all the time. The second I'd like to thank is my wife, Anne. And this part will be against her wishes for sure. We met in law school, and yeah, she was very beautiful, but she was just so different. Just the way she talked was different. She had this aura of strength and confidence that I'd never seen before. It seemed like she didn't need anyone or anything. And she had this amazingly beautiful mind. And so I chased her and chased her and chased her. And finally, one day she said to me, okay, my roommate and I are going to have a movie night. You can come over and you can bring the movie. So I said to her, have you ever seen the movie Silence of the Lambs? So I pick up the movie and go over to her house, her apartment. We click in the movie and watch it, and it gets done. And I turned to her and I said, wasn't that great? And she looked at me and she said, no, it was awful. It made destruction look like it was an intellectual pursuit. Any idiot can destroy. The challenge is in creating. I feel like I've wasted 2 hours of my life. Mind you, that was our first date. So I let a couple weeks go by, regrouped, and I went up to her and I said, hey, how about another movie night? And to my surprise, she said yes. And so then I said, hey, this time you choose the movie. So I went over to her apartment again, and she clicks in the movie, and it's a love story. It's set in ancient Rome, and it's 3 hours long. I remember doing the movie, doing everything I could to stay awake. And you know how when you're driving, you kind of slap your face, and I'm trying to do that without her even noticing. Finally, we get to the end of the movie, and it ends with this couple being stoned to death. I remember staring at the screen as the credits were rolling, and I was like, and she turns to me and she says, now, wasn't that a beautiful movie? And I'm sitting there shaking my head, my mouth's open. I'm like, it was the best movie I've ever seen. And so she says to me, great, I was hoping you'd say that. I bought you the book, and it was like this thick. And so began our 23-year journey to here. And I'm so thankful. She has been my best friend through good times and bad. She has been so gracious when this public life that we all live intrudes into her private life. She has been my staunchest ally, my greatest advisor in all the fights and skirmishes we get in. And she has taken the time over the 6 years that I've been elected to drive from our home to Tallahassee and back so many times I can't count, because she wanted to ensure that I wouldn't lose too much time with 6 wonderful children, Kate, Jack, Caroline, Luke, Major, and Evangeline, who when I'm just in their presence, the world gets a whole lot better. Thank you all. Members, we're only 2 weeks out from a national election that was historic. It shocked the pollsters and the pundits, left everyone dazed and confused. What started out as a small roar in the Republican and Democratic primaries became a primal scream on the election day. And somehow, We were all surprised, but we shouldn't have been. We talked about this over a year ago at our designation ceremony. What we said then, the voters yelled on election day. The enemy is us. And that shouldn't be much of a surprise either. From pretty much the beginning of civilization, there has been this tension between leaders looking out for their own interest against the interest of those they are sworn to represent. Plato, a student of Socrates, studied the first self-governing democracy in the history of mankind. He would devote his entire life to examining it and trying to figure out whether this messy thing called self-governance could really succeed. Our own founders studied the exact same conflict. And the answer then is the same as the answer now. Good government isn't a process. It's a struggle for its leaders to do the right thing. We have to put aside those rhetorical devices and political tricks and look out for the people. We have to govern selflessly, and we have to tell the truth. So I want to start by telling some truth. Too many bills are filed every legislative session by members who have been given to them by the lobbyists and the special interests. Too many lobbyists see themselves as the power brokers of this process. Too many appropriations projects are vendor giveaways, and whether they make it into our final budget or not has far more to do with the lobbyists they hired than the merits of the project itself. Too many laws reduce competition in the private sector and make it harder for people to get a job while we hide under the outrageous claims that we are protecting public safety. And too many protectionist policies and carve-outs are in our healthcare laws because it seems like we care more about the vendors than we do about the patients. And hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars is wasted on corporate welfare because it seems like we have forgotten what it is that we believe. On the rare occasion that we're able to push through the horde of lobbyists and special interests and do something really, really good, they just regroup, they openly brag about waiting us out, and then they come back and one statute, one exemption, one appropriation at a time undo all that we did that was good. That is the truth we know, and that is the truth that the people know. But there's another truth, and it's transformational. All of us in this room have the power to undo that. We can make this a moment of greatness and push back and tell the people of this state of Florida that we will fix their broken system and that we can turn it into something that is true and good and beautiful. And it starts today. On your desks are the most aggressive, transformative rules in the history of the Florida legislature. These rules make us a national leader in transparency and accountability. We begin, as all good reform should begin, by holding ourselves to a higher standard, by creating a firewall between those who seek to influence the law and those of us who make the laws. No more business deals with lobbyists. No more lobbying texting during committees and during session. No more flying on private planes. No more lobbying local governments. And no more lobbying after our term of service is done for not 2, but not 4, but 6 years. It's the longest and strongest ban in the nation. It all ends, and it all ends today. These restraints against ourselves are a great start, but they're not enough. We also have to clean up our budget process. The state's budget is the most time-consuming, difficult task that we undertake every single session. And if there's one area where we have consistently fallen short, is we have to rein in our own spending. The proliferation of earmarks in our state budget have reached epidemic level. Last year, under our very, very infant transparency program, we identified $2.3 billion worth of earmark requests. And here's my point. If any of these folks here who aren't day-to-day familiar with the process were able to look at those requests, they would not be able to tell a single bit of difference between whose requests were Republican members and whose requests were Democrat members. So now we're going to double down. The rules before you today take us to a whole new level of budget transparency. In fact, just like our rules to rein our own behavior in, they're the strongest in the nation. From now on, from the beginning of session, you will have to file a standalone bill for a budget request, and you'll have to file that request before session even starts. In addition to that, you're going to have to fill out detailed financial information on why that project is worthy. And no longer will we have to tolerate last-minute appropriations being stuck into our budget with little or no public scrutiny in the waning hours of session, literally written on the back of a napkin that they got from the bar the night before. From now on, everybody, from the very first day of session in this entire state, will know what projects are in play, and they will know who's pushing and paying to get them in our budget. And for those of you who find this rule too burdensome, I have a message. If you can't get one single member out of the 120 in this room, if you can't have your project withstand just a few weeks of public scrutiny, and if you can't give us detailed information on why that project is worthy, then you do not deserve taxpayer funding. Thank you. All of this is truly historic. But the best part is we did it together. We have done this in a bipartisan fashion. Thank you, Chairman Oliva. Thank you, Leader Cruz. And thank you, Representative Berman. You have done an excellent job. And now that we've cleaned up our own behavior, begun the process of cleaning up our own budget, and cleaning up our own house, now we can dream bigger and bolder about public policy. Last year, when we zeroed out corporate welfare, my Republican colleagues and I did it knowing that it would anger many, many people and many, many groups who had been our traditional supporters. We knew it would cause a lot of tension. We knew it would cause internal strife, and we knew that it would have consequences. But we did it anyway, because we knew it was the right thing to do. And nowhere is the right thing to do more needed than in education. So I would like to issue a heartfelt challenge to our Democrat colleagues. The teachers' union is fixated on halting innovation and competition in education. They are literally trying to destroy the lives of 100,000 children. Most of them are minorities, and all of them are poor. It flies in the face of common sense, and it defies every single study. It is downright evil. And I know that's a strong word, but bear with me for 1 second. If you are in a lifeboat out at sea, and you see a small, hapless child swimming to another lifeboat to save his or her life, who in their right mind would think the thing to do was to destroy that lifeboat, all because they're not swimming to yours? If anyone here witnessed that, what would you call it? Tell the teachers' union they are wrong. Tell them to stop the suit. Let's fight alongside each other. And let's create an education system that isn't afraid to innovate and take risks. Let's partner together to ensure that all children of all races and of all incomes are afforded a world-class education. This willingness to rethink systems is especially important in healthcare. My hope is that the 2016 election will kick open the doors in healthcare policy. Let's send a message to the president-elect and to the Congress that if you're really serious about changing the direction of healthcare, then let Florida take the lead in reform. Let us show the rest of the nation, let us show Washington, D.C., how well people would do if we could put together a free market, consumer-driven healthcare system. Changing healthcare in Washington, D.C., it'll require them putting principle above power. And nowhere is there a greater example of people putting power above principle than in our judicial branches. We need judges who will respect the Constitution and the separation of powers, who will reject the temptation to turn themselves into some unelected super legislature. The problem with holding the same office for, in essence, life is you start to think that that office is far, far, far less important than the person in it, which is why we need 12-year term limits on judges so that we can have a healthy judicial branch. A functioning judiciary is an integral component, as we have seen in Florida, to a great economy. No economic system has done more for mankind than the free market system. It has lifted more people out of poverty in the last 3 centuries than in the previous 3,000 years. But when judges and lawmakers and bureaucrats start writing laws that literally pick winners and losers, that's when markets fail. We have got to reverse the damage that has been done. We need to deregulate all these barriers to entry. That's what the people of this state want. They just want to be able to get a good job. They want to be able to own a home. They want to be able to have their kids get that world-class education. They want to be able to buy affordable, quality health care. And they want to have the freedom to worship however they want. They want to believe that their government and its leaders are working for them. They want to get up every morning and know that if they work hard and play by the rules, they can get a part of the American dream. Members, we're only one half of one legislature in one state. And so a lot of people have already said to me that this dream is far, far, far beyond our reach. But that will not stop us. The special interests will not stop us. The mainstream media will not stop us. Our own party leaders will not stop us. We will fight. At our designation ceremony, I talked at great length about my parents, both of whom were in the greatest generation. Both my parents also loved books. And my mom, who was British, loved all the stories about the legend of King Arthur. And I remember being just a little boy, mesmerized by those stories. This idea of a group of knights working side by side together, none greater than the other, and all of them willing to die for something greater than themselves. Could leaders really work that way? Could the world really be like that? Yes, it can. And it's all up to us. God bless our state, and God bless our nation. Thank you.